Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to allow a few more people to trickle in, and we'll get started soon. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Jen Gustafson, and I'm a content director at NewsCred, where I have the opportunity to work with a lot of innovative technology companies, including Twitter. And I get to work with people like Joe, who's here with me today. We work very closely together, creating great content for brands and agencies. I won't do his introduction justice, so I'll allow him to say hello to the room.
Good morning, webinar people. What's webinar fans? Good morning, all the hustling marketers out there. We're so excited to talk to all of y'all today. My name is Joe Wadlington. I've been working at Twitter for 4 years. I'm a content lead on the @Twitter business team. So I've been thinking about agencies and hustlers and influencers and small businesses for quite some time here. And I'm really excited to share some of the expertise that we have accumulated over the years and some of the stats. We had our data science team work for 6 months to come up with the statistics that I'm going to share with y'all today. So I think they're going to be really valuable, and I'm excited to see them out on Twitter when you all start employing our advice.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. So let's start by just setting the stage for why NewsCred and Twitter have come together for this webinar today. For those unfamiliar, NewsCred is the world's leading content marketing platform, and our mission is to help marketing teams work better together. In that spirit, I'm going to be kicking things off with some high-level trends about content marketing and the social media landscape, which will help highlight the importance of knowing your audience and data to succeed on Twitter and in marketing in 2019. If we look ahead to the agenda on the next slide, here's what we'll cover today. We've already received a lot of great questions, which we'll answer at the end of the webinar. And you should also see a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen where you can leave any questions at any time for us. So with that, we'll dive right in. First up, I like to start with this slide as a reminder that the goal for us as marketers is not to be good at content, it's to be good at business using content. But it's also harder than ever to create effective marketing. But why is that? We'll look at several industry and consumer behavior trends to answer that question. First is brand new, hot off the presses NewsCred data from our analytics platform and customer base. It shows that traffic to brand content marketing hubs from social media has dropped significantly in 2018. That aligns with that BuzzSumo saw in a recent content trends report. The amount of content is increasing basically exponentially, and shares per content piece have seen corresponding drops. Most people here are on marketing teams with more than 4 people. This means that even our own teams don't want to share the content we're creating. And Cantor has also found that integrated campaigns are just more effective. So many of you may be thinking, how does this apply specifically to social media teams? Well, we already pointed out how many teams planning campaigns with social touchpoints aren't including social teams from the beginning of that planning process. Hootsuite also just published new data showing the majority of organizations are using social media beyond marketing teams. That means there are a lot of opportunities for social and content marketers to really take the lead on more internal collaboration and KPI sharing. And really just breaking down those internal silos. We encourage everyone on this webinar to not just take away best practices for making your own campaigns more effective on Twitter, but also look for opportunities to co-create and plan and data share with other teams, both in and outside of marketing. Because really bringing teams together inevitably makes better content. Ultimately, this approach will help you transform your marketing projects and organization into a more effective, more powerful, and more efficient team. And with that overview of industry trends for 2019, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Joe to jump into everything brands need to succeed on Twitter in 2019.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jen. I don't think I drove your slides correctly. Is there anything that I missed, that I had the wrong slide up, that you would like to touch on again?
I think we're good, Joe. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. I think people are here for Twitter.
Okay, and looking at the chat, I can also share that all of these slides will be shared out at the end as well. We have your emails now, so we can share slides with you. Don't worry. So let me talk about Twitter. One of the main questions that we get is why Twitter? Because we're never going to pretend that Twitter is the only platform that people are marketing on, and it shouldn't be. We want you to find where your brand fits into every single niche of the internet. And that's one thing that Twitter can give you tons of access to. So one thing we like to start talking about when we begin talking to clients is where Twitter fits into their strategy. Which sections of your marketing strategy should be employed on Twitter so that those pieces can succeed, and what parts will be the best, most appropriate for that. So the number one reason that people come to Twitter is to discover something new. And we have seen this again and again. I've been here for 4 years, and it did not used to be this way. We used to have a window to the world type thing. But now we know that people on Twitter are in an extreme discovery mindset. They're curious. They came to look at Twitter, which is really exciting and a great way for you to sculpt all of your ads and your strategies to know that people are looking for new things. So then any part of your strategy that has to do with discovering new stuff is going to do exceptionally well on Twitter. 3 ways that you can also think about your campaigns and how to filter what should go onto Twitter. I like to think of them as conversation, control, and back talk. So if there's anything about your campaign that is really conversational, something about your business, you want to ask questions, get the opinions of your customers and your potential customers, you want back and forth, that should go on Twitter, because nothing moves faster than Twitter, and it's an easy way to collect all of the conversation. Secondly, because Twitter moves so quickly, if you want to control the conversation on something, say you want to launch your product, you have a new location opening, there is other conversation already happening about your business, one of your clients, something in your industry, and you want to be some of the first people to comment on it or to get ahead, then Twitter is the place to go. It's going to move faster than a lot of the blogging platforms or more professionally focused platforms as well. And it's also a great place to talk about apologies, to take things back, to have that really casual language that works on Twitter, to be able to level with people, human to human, business to business. One mistake that we see a lot of businesses make is they will use Twitter as a publishing platform. And so a lot of their tweets will read like a press release, or it just all sounds a bit stiff. And then immediately their followers start asking questions or kind of poking holes in that really gorgeous glossy statement. And it can kind of fall apart, where really human conversational language does extremely well, where people feel like they're being leveled with. And then the third thing is back talk. I'm going to have some brand examples of things I really like to see on Twitter later, and none of those will include one of the ones that are celebrities right now of Hardee's, Wendys. Everyone knows that burger Twitter is extremely sassy right now. And so it's created this groundswell of other brands also trying to figure out what is the sassiest version of themselves. And so I know we have a lot of trouble when we talk to people who are they have a healthcare client, or they have a B2B or software, or things that are not innately sassy. It would be very odd for your billing software to be extremely bold in every direction when you really want people to trust you with their money. So not everyone can be quite so loud with their voice, but we do encourage you to take the loudest, most human, most conversational, punny, quick version of your brand, and that's the one that should show up on Twitter, even if it's not that punny or quick or sassy. But showing that version of yourself on Twitter will make a healthier account and a healthier presence as well. Oh, and another misconception in terms of how people use Twitter and how to inevitably grow your account is the play between organic and promoted. To have a really healthy Twitter following, to be able to use Twitter as a really healthy and effective marketing stream for your company, you have to be paying for ads. You have to be promoting your stuff, and you have to have a strong organic content strategy as well. The two help each other out. And one question we get often is people say, oh, they'll send you a screenshot of a tweet that doesn't have the promoted badge on it. And they'll say, well, this is, they did this for free, so I want that. Or I'm sure there are a lot of community managers on the line who have been told by their boss, hey, make us go viral, as if that's helpful whatsoever. And so a big misconception is that you can do Twitter entirely organically and be successful, and that's simply not true. A lot of the tweets that we've seen that are viral, when they get to you, started out as promoted tweets. You put a budget behind a promoted tweet, you can put a few hundred, a few thousand behind it, and then when it runs out, that tweet still lives in the wild. And it may have already gained the momentum that it needed to then get that level of virality. And then all organic strategies on Twitter should be supported by paid content, and all paid strategies should have organic content. So if you're bringing people to your profile, you're running an incredible followers campaign that's magnetizing all these potential followers, and they get to your profile and you don't have interesting tweets, and you're not sending pictures or videos, you don't have a fully filled out profile, then they're going to leave. So you need to have the organic stuff as well as the paid, and then those two work in collaboration. Oh, and if that can be difficult for some folks to think, I want to take a campaign all the way, I need organic, I need paid, and then we recommend putting more budget into a single campaign than running more budgets into a single campaign, or being able to really focus extremely in one area. I'll have a slide later where I show a matrix of what each product does. And it's really important to ask what is the entire point of being on Twitter and to get those clear goals. I know that can be difficult. I've been a freelance community manager before, and that's a really helpful way to start with your manager, with your marketing team, is asking, are we growing the following? Are we doing brand awareness? Are we pulling people to our website? And really nailing them down on what is the one or two specific goals, because all of our campaigns are objective based. So you need to know that going in. And this is another misconception we see with a lot of our advertisers, where they've been advertising for a while and they're not enjoying Twitter ads. They don't find them successful. And we're like, oh, what is your goal? And they're like, to be good at Twitter. And we're like, love the goal, little unspecific. But whereas you say focusing on followers, focusing on website clicks, focusing on app downloads, then that is a way that you can really invest in it, make multiple campaigns, optimize them, and really do it right. So I'm going to talk about some creative best practices. We have a lot of visual examples that I'm going to fly through. First of all, we're surprised by how many folks start advertising and then they don't have a fully set up profile. And I think because people focus so much on the tweets, and we love well thought out tweets, but people can often forget that their profile is basically their landing page when it comes to Twitter. So you need to go to your profile page, take a hard look at it every single quarter, and ask yourself what should need to be updated. Would you follow this account is something we often ask ourselves at Twitter. Fill every field, create visual consistency with the profile photo, the header image. And then I like to think of it on a time scale. Of course, your tweets would be the most recent thing. You should be tweeting several times a week, several times a day. And then your pinned tweet is basically representative of if someone asked you as a person what's new, but if someone asked the business. So if someone asks your business what's new and you have a new branch, a new product launch, that's the perfect pinned tweet. And then I think of the header image as being something that is reflective of what's big that quarter or that moment. So whatever brand colors you're working with at that time, for some brands, their header image is not going to change very frequently because they have this same visual look for a long period of time. That's great. And if your company, if you have a nonprofit and you're raising money for 8 months, then hey, what's new is go to this link to give us money. So that pinned tweet will stay up for 8 months. And that makes so much sense. But it is important every quarter to look at it and ask yourself with each element, could it be updated? So here is a picture of MailChimp's, and I think they do that really effectively. We have the classic MailChimp logo framed very beautifully in the circle. If you've not updated your profile photo since we moved to the circle profile, please do so. You may have odd white corners in it right now. And their header image is with the current brand campaign that they're running. So you can see these colors reflected. Their pinned tweet is a little bit cut off, but you can see that nice pale millennial pink that is everywhere and these polka dotted balloons. So it just looks extremely consistent. And then I think they may have, I don't love this bio. It could be a little bit better in terms of why someone would follow MailChimp specifically. But MailChimp has such good brand awareness that they've created a bit of loyalty where they can kind of play with it. And I also know that MailChimp is currently adding a lot of new things. They're doing snail mail now. They're adding new, so their brand is expanding and changing. And I think this is a bio of a brand that is kind of expanding and growing. And I love that they have such a specific, for updates about our service, check out at MailChimp status. So they're kind of saying, don't DM us your problems because then they won't get solved as quickly as you would like. They have their headquarters as Atlanta, Georgia. That's something a lot of big companies miss because they're like, oh, we're everywhere, we're online. But having your headquarters flagged immediately humanizes the brand. It also means that locals will be able to find your brand more easily because that means if I live in Georgia, the MailChimp profile is going to be served to me more when I'm in Twitter search. And all of your employees that work at headquarters are going to be able to find it more easily. And then they have their website right there. You should change your URL based on which web page you want people to go to the most. So often it's probably not your landing page that you want if there's a new product you're pushing or that type of thing. And then their pinned tweet is great. It's from January 18th and it's about New Year's resolutions, so very timely. SketchUp, so this is a great bio. Ultimate tool for designing user interfaces, websites, and icons. So that immediately tells me why I would follow them because I would get updates. And then if I think of myself as if someone who designs user interfaces and websites, then I immediately know, oh, this is the ultimate tool for me. So I should follow. Start your free trial at SketchUp. So they have the website twice, which tells me they're really promoting it right now. And these are 2 call to actions, which I think are really sticky. Start your free trial so I can get started today, and then join our community today, ! It makes me want to follow it. So now we're going to move into some creative best practices on the tweet level. We were asked a lot, what are the new features? What are the new things? And while video is not a new feature, the way in which we're interacting with video and the way video is showing up on Twitter is new every month. We are shocked. We keep running, have our data scientists, and they'll do a study on how video is growing, and then we'll be like, it can't be growing that quickly still. And we'll like send them back. You have to verify the study, but each time we're so pleasantly surprised by how it's taking off. Tweets with videos are 6 times more likely to be retweeted than tweets with photos. So, and we don't want this to make it seem as if you need to spend a lot of money on a video campaign. We did buy a green screen recently, not to brag, but it's been really helping us on the Twitter business side. But we have seen a lot of performance from lo-fi video. People just love video in general. That doesn't mean it has to be produced. And to prove that, I'm going to show a very produced video from Glossier. This is a great use of video. Because it's extremely pleasant to look at. It's beautiful. Beauty Twitter, skincare Twitter, makeup Twitter are huge corners of the Twitterverse, but this is also a tutorial. They're showing you the thing, but they're also showing you how to use it. So by scrolling past this tweet, I immediately already know how to use their Cloud Paint product. It's a pretty brilliant way to have a tutorial in a way that doesn't seem very tutorial-like. And it sounds great. Video is the fastest growing advertising tool. There are 1.2 billion video views on Twitter each day, which is 2 times more than there were a year ago. So again, it's growing extremely quickly. Start talking to your team about what your video strategy on Twitter should be, because this has no signs of stopping, and you don't want to be passed up by all of your peers in your industry and in 6 months say, oh, why don't we have a video campaign? In-stream video ads have been shown to increase ad recall by 70% and lead to 6% higher purchase intent compared to people who weren't exposed to video ads. And the reason that we think video is so successful on Twitter is because of the discovery mindset that we talked about before, of people are really curious when they come to Twitter, and they're really sticky. They're willing to sit there and watch a video, and we have an extremely high mobile audience, and so that bodes well for video as well. Images. So tweets with images perform better as well. Easy to create, adjust. So this pro tip is about having templates. Even though I work at Twitter, we are on a very scrappy team. So I fully understand and empathize with the idea of not having tons of resources. So when people say we need images on every tweet, we need videos, that can seem pretty daunting. And it will move you into a place where instead of tweeting every day, you're tweeting like one gorgeous tweet a month, which is definitely not the ideal. And one thing we've found success with is creating templates. So we'll have our designer, instead of having them create every single image, we'll have them create a template, and then that we can adjust, that we can make non-designers can use and adjust, and then we'll have approved stock photos or images that we can drop in for each one. And so you can see 2 Salesforce images right here. And this is clearly a Q&A series that they've created on Twitter, #MakeChange series. And then with each person who's going to be part of the series, they're going to drop a different image in it to this template. And it's a great way to brand it visually across all of the tweets. So every time if someone listened to the first one, they see the tweet roll by and they're like, oh, this is something I saw before that I really enjoyed. And it's surprisingly a very easy thing to do from a very scrappy and low resource standpoint, to create a template that immediately brings visual consistency to your tweets. Another example of templates, I like these. The color's changing, but the rest is all the same. Hashtags. So when this was sent to me, normally I edited the presentation beforehand, and I saw this hashtag, this like blue hashtag right here above pro tip, and I left it as a bad example of what not to do. Because since things are on Twitter, people love adding hashtags as a visual element. They just feel like, oh, I'm on Twitter, home of the hashtag, inventor of the hashtag, so I gotta shove a lot in. And it is odd to be coming from Twitter and say use fewer hashtags, but please use fewer hashtags. Only add a hashtag if you are purposefully linking to the broader conversation. Unfortunately, we see tons of ads where, say it's a website card, where the goal is to bring people to the website, that they click through on the image, and then the person will add hashtag marketing, hashtag ad, hashtag campaign, and now you've created 4 other links that go to completely different things. So you've reduced the power of your website card and the link, and people are not going to click on to your website, they're going to click on these other things. And Twitter is so electric and lively, and that's wonderful, but that means someone will click on hashtag marketing, and then they're going to be blown into the liveliest discussion about marketing, and your ad is far in their past. So reduce your use of hashtags and have them stay in only places where they'll be extremely powerful. And most likely that means using fewer of them. And then here's some great hashtags in this grid that we love and use often, and are great ways when you are out of tweet ideas, or you're asking, like, you want to create account liveliness, but you're not sure what to bring. I would suggest all 6 of these right here. We've seen a lot of success with them. Tweet threads. I love tweet threads. And they're easier to make than ever. This is another one of the design things where we see Twitter users are using Twitter in a certain way, complaining about it, being creative in how they go about it. So we made tweet threads a product priority, and we've made them much easier. And the new update allows you to publish a tweet thread all at once. So you can write 6 tweets at once, add your images, add your links, and then publish them all at one time, as opposed to publishing one, hit reply, publish the second one, hit reply, which I think is really wonderful for brands, because sometimes you want to publish them as a really pristine thread that no one has jumped in and commented on quite yet, especially if it's a sensitive issue or if it's a brand rollout and you want to create that momentum, that drama, and you don't want people jumping in being like, what are you talking about? I heard this. You can publish them all at once. So that's really nice. And tweet threads, of course, are very tall. They take up a lot of room on the timeline. And we love tweet threads as well as a way to bump a tweet from the day before, from another time of day. So you can publish, if you don't want to publish them all at once, you publish your tweet. And then a few hours later, when a different time zone is now awake, you reply to yourself and have another witty observation about your own update. And then that pulls both tweets to the top of everyone's stream. Follows and retweets. Twitter is not just about who is following you, but it's also about who you are following. Another great way to fill out your content calendar is to retweet. Make friends with peers in your industry, have banter. Monterey Bay Aquarium is incredible on Twitter. And if you look at their pinned tweet, is just the ocean. Retweet if you agree, which I've retweeted this one before because I definitely agree. Find good accounts to follow and improve yours. The best inspiration that we get on Twitter comes from other people who are tweeting. And if you're on Twitter, if you have a rich account, that is a great way to, every time you log in, you're seeing marketing inspiration and other interesting things going on. You don't want your account to only be following a handful of people. Although I will say, at one point KFC, their account was only following 11 people, and all of their names were either an herb or a spice. So it was like 11 herbs and spices, which is what, so that's really creative and silly. But other than them, I would, I would suggest following people that you think are interesting, and definitely people in your industry, to create conversation. And as a former community manager, retweets is just a great way to fill your content calendar, to keep your account lively while not always having to talk about yourself. It looks very magnanimous, very generous to be retweeting others. And followers really like it. They like following you and seeing who inspires you come into their stream as well. It's another way to add value. Yeah, here's some great. Dear Wendys, do you prefer the Marvel or DC universe? And then Wendys says Marvel, and Marvel Entertainment jumps in. So clearly they follow Wendys, they found that. And then DC Comics also talking to Wendys as well. Okay, and this is what I was talking about before, of what version of your voice will be most successful on Twitter. So I'm gonna play this video from Shutterstock. We saw this, and it just blew our minds. We made every single person on our team watch it several times. And this, of course, is in reference to the 2 documentaries about the Frey Festival on Hulu and on Netflix. So this is also very timely, which is what we loved. If you're commenting on something that is in the zeitgeist, but it's not something that is so sensitive or so dicey that it could possibly go wrong for you. So Shutterstock, I'll just play the video. If you were dancing during that video, that's the correct way to go about it. We all were too. And so they're, of course, saying, they're basically implying that we have enough imagery, like stock imagery on our site, that you could do an entire scam and make millions of dollars as a grifter, which is a really compelling ad concept, and one that I have not seen before. So this is clearly something that they started on Twitter. It's a sassier and a bit riskier version. And because it is so zeitgeisty, it will be more successful on Twitter than anywhere else. So perfect way to think of what campaigns should be running on Twitter. what is this? I love it. So clearly this is in getting ready for the big game. So coming into sports Twitter and dog Twitter as well, which because of the Puppy Bowl, those are, we've seen on Twitter, there's a huge Venn diagram overlap. So it's actually pretty brilliant. And then it's unexpected as well, but it's nice because it's getting ready for the big game and people already know exactly what you're talking about. And this is another zeitgeisty approach. So one popular Twitter dialogue is whether a hot dog is a sandwich or not. If you want to immediately create conversation, just weigh in on that. And one of my, I was talking about someone last night actually, is are Pop-Tarts ravioli? Which if you think about it, they could be. And so Pop-Tarts pin tweet is public service announcement. Pop-Tarts are not ravioli. Pop-Tarts are not sandwiches. They will never be a Tide Pod flavored Pop-Tart. Have a nice day. So they're bringing in several references, which again, this is the sassier version of how Pop-Tarts would normally be. But it's still like, it's not so much where it's completely out of their league or anyone's concerned for Pop-Tarts mental health, which is good. Building strong campaigns. So let's get into some more specific and ad-based things. What does each campaign do? So this is a grid that you can see in the Twitter playbook for agencies. And this is what I was referring to before as getting your team zeroed in on what is the objective, what is the real need. And so you can see if tweet impressions is the thing that y'all really want to focus on. So you want as many people to see your tweet as possible. You can run your finger across the tweet impressions line and see that there are 3 different campaigns that do that. An awareness campaign focuses only on tweet impressions. So that is, I want as many people to see this tweet as possible. Quick promote is the fast mobile version of an awareness campaign. Or if you see that your team's goal is followers and tweet impressions, then Twitter promote mode is the only one that does both of those. So very helpful. And again, these slides will be shared out afterwards. Know your audience. That is another thing to do right at the beginning of a campaign when you're trying to figure out what to target. I'm sure we'll have some targeting questions later on, and I'll keep referencing going to analytics first because that's when you found it the most juicy information. Analytics.twitter.com is something that you have to have a Twitter ads account to access. And when you sign up for Twitter ads, you will have to put in a credit card to sign up, but that is not to, you will not begin getting charged. You only are charged for advertising on Twitter, not having an ads account on Twitter. So it scares some people away. Don't worry about it. It's not until you set up a campaign. It's so that when you set up a campaign, you can start it immediately because a lot of people want to be able to start campaigns on the go. But when you sign up for Twitter ads, analytics.twitter.com is one of the absolute hidden gems. I'll show you. So this is my analytics dashboard. And then you get incredible information like this. So it appears like 98% of my followers are interested in dogs. 91 and 80% are both interested in types of comedy. So that lets me know if I were creating a content calendar for myself, funny dog videos would go off exceptionally well with my following. Most followings would like that, but especially mine. I'm not surprised to see weather really high up because so many cities are experiencing extreme weather, and I'm sure over the next few months that will trickle off. Music festivals and concerts is pretty common for my following. Though space and astronomy, while I do have a lot of scientists in my Twitter community, I think that's probably because Ariana Grande released a song called NASA, and I think the discussions about NASA have gone up so much in my following that now space and astronomy appears to be ranking. But I think it's a misnomer. And then sports news and sporting events are high for me right now. And I'm sure as we get farther away from the Super Bowl, those will go down. I bet those are really marketing conversations that are being had around the Super Bowl, not so specifically about the football that I hear is played there. And then I have other demographics, lifestyle demographics, consumer behavior, household income network. You will be shocked if you've not looked at Twitter analytics, how much to narrow down how should you sound, who should you target, go to analytics first and all of your answers will be right there. Being data-driven is definitely helpful, and experimenting with new content every week is rewarding in the long term. From December to July 2017, we measured a 45% increase in engagement by optimizing our content and testing small innovations every week. So this is a social media manager from HelloFresh who we've worked with before, and speaks to how valuable it can be to have a campaign running for a really long period of time and optimizing it and tweaking it. And this is what I talked about before of really having the one goal and going after that fully. It is better to de-emphasize and defund other tangential goals to really focus on the central one. Run a campaign for a good long period of time and tweak it. And that is how you're going to find the best voice, the stuff that your followers love, respond to, and that it's a hit every single time. Find your dog comedy VIN diagram. 84% of Twitter users made an online purchase in the past month compared to 74% of people who don't use Twitter. So they got money, they're spending it. And 31% of Twitter users made a mobile purchase in the past month. So Twitter is extremely mobile. We're a mobile we started on mobile. The reason that tweets were 140 characters was because that was the text limit back when we were all using T9. So we're born on mobile. So it's not a surprise to find that we have more mobile purchases than most web platforms. Quick campaign tips, and then we'll move into questions. Emphasize urgency. So when I showed the example from Sketch and they were saying, join our community today, that's great. Adding today to things, Twitter is very instant and quick. So people on Twitter are used to jumping to things. They respond really well to language like sign up today. Also, a fun thing to do on Twitter because people move so quickly is you can start a sale on Twitter and say like this sale is going, use this coupon code for the next 2 hours, 5 hours, and create that sense of urgency. And then after 5 hours, delete the tweet. And that's a great way to create that drama and that rushingness. Discount by percentage. We've seen that people prefer, we'll of course do a lot of ads where it's like $10 off, $20 off. People prefer a percentage for whatever reason. Maybe it's just because people are bad at math. I know I often get excited by a 10% off coupon and then I see like, oh, that saves me $1. Well, I'm already here. And we've seen that that's true with Twitter users as well, is if you just count by percent, that normally gets more clicks. On the tweet level, asking questions, of course, is great. Twitter is a conversational platform. Like I said before, whatever conversational aspect of your campaign, the most conversational version of it, it should show up on Twitter. If you've run out of ideas, ask a question. Just be like, what are you doing today? How are you doing today? And you will be surprised by how many people want to engage, but they come to Twitter to have conversations just like that. Number 4 is be open. We have been shocked by the things that have taken off for us. And that goes back to having a healthy following, being inspired by people who are not in your industry, who wouldn't necessarily think would have a good account. Everybody who is a top Twitter account right now was taking risks 6 months ago, a year ago to optimize to get to the place they are now. So be open to what time zone may be good for your tweets, what type of content your people love. Take a few risks and experiment. Your analytics, again, are a great kind of guide light for if your boss, your peers are like, why are we doing this? And you can say analytics, because our followers love dogs. And then flash the logo. This is a video specific tip. Along with other video specific tips, I will say always have subtitles in your video. This doesn't count if it's a lo-fi video, a Periscope you're doing at that very moment. But if you're producing a video, we've all been on the train, you're looking at your phone, a video starts playing, you don't have your headphones in, and you're like, well, it looks nice, but I don't know what they're saying. So definitely have subtitles on every video. And then flash your logo at the beginning. One advertising trend I'm seeing is people do kind of the documentary style where you don't know what company is until the end and it's a big reveal. I think that Super Bowl a few years ago kind of really started that trend, and that does not work on Twitter. People are moving very quickly. So yes, you can build drama, but have the logo and your brand colors appear on screen within the first few seconds of your video. If your video is long, if it's short, just make it clear who it's coming from very quickly. And that is the last of my, not the last of my quick campaign tips, but the last of mine for this slide. I think we're ready for questions. And by the nods of my team in the room, it looks like we have a lot.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Joe. We've seen a ton of good questions coming in throughout the webinar. So we've curated a list here. And so Joe, I'll ask you the first question. Someone asked, how can I better understand my audience on Twitter?
The analytics dashboard that I showed is definitely the first place to start. And then some specific things I would say from that is go to interests first, go to time zone first, and then go to device first. Those would be the three that I would look at because there's a lot of information on analytics. And I say those because that will shape your content. Interests, basically think of what should I tweet about. Device, how should I format this? Because if you know, most of your audience is on mobile, most of your audience is on desktop, most of your audience is on a Google phone. Really helpful when you're doing your creative materials for what filter to put them in, what aspect ratio. And then the time zone is super helpful if you know you need to queue your tweets, if you should tweet at night. A lot of people have seen success simply by moving the tweets that they were already doing back a few hours or up a few hours, because you want to tweet when your people are actually online.
Cool. We're also seeing a lot of people looking for some more B2B examples and insight into B2B best practices. So Joe, what are some B2B best practices, especially for those B2B maybe organizations that might seem a little more boring? Do you still recommend video for those brands?
I absolutely still recommend video. And Jen, I know you work with a lot of people in this industry as well, where it's like businesses that they're extremely necessary and they're important to their customers, but they're just not the type of business that bodes a lot of content. So I would always say, look around at what you do have, because Twitter is a place for nerdy niche people. There will be followers who care so much about lumber and lumber quality and the types of burls on every 2x4. And so you will be shocked at what people can be interested in. I used to run a Twitter account for a cabinet knob company. I've done Twitter for HVAC and air conditioning, and we found content. So it is absolutely difficult at first, but I think leaning in about doing a how-to video about winterizing your home and how to change your HVAC for that time. Feature the employees that already work for you. Pictures that have tweets that have pictures of people and when they're smiling always looks good. So highlighting your employees makes your B2B brand seem more human, which is always a really good thing. It's key to use the audience that is already going to your site. Make sure that you have your conversation tracking correctly set up and using tailor audiences for targeting. So that's a great way to dig into that niche audience. If people are already going to your site, then you know you have them and you can have really deep conversations. You can retarget your ads to go to people who have already been to your site. And then these are things that other B2B brands are also struggling with. They all are. So by making yourself more human and by really focusing on Twitter, you're going to be able to do something that a lot of your competition is not doing and finding these folks.
Totally. And to build on that a little bit, Joe, even in B2B organizations, we're still all talking to humans, and every brand, every technology platform, whatever the B2B industry is, still has an interesting story to tell. So I think, putting people at the center of the conversation is always just a best practice, regardless of your industry. Let's see, next question. Are there tools that can help show target audience, that can help show my target audience in an ad that is related to the nature of their business based on their profile?
Yes and no. So I'm hearing two parts to that question. One is kind of, can I show tweets to people who don't follow me and target them? Absolutely. And you do that by promoting your tweet by running a promoted tweets campaign. And those, of course, have tons of layers of rich targeting. We recommend starting really broad with your targeting and then seeing where that goes, and then zeroing in over time on your promoted tweets campaign. And then the other half of that question, I would say, no, we don't have a tool that can filter basically people who say that they're a business, people who say that they're into this type of thing. And the reason is because we have other tools that are more valuable. So similarly, I talked early on about filling out your profile completely. there are a lot of people on Twitter who have not filled out their profile completely. And so you can't always look at a profile and know what that person is interested in. They're not going to list their entire purchase history in their bio. They're not going to say all the things that they're excited about learning from brands. But based on who they follow, they will tell you quite a bit about their interests. So if you, as opposed to targeting the profiles, I would say target who the profiles are following, because then they will tell you what they want to hear more about, the brands that they're interested in interacting with. So to this question asker, I would say dig into follower targeting. That's also the targeting that we recommend first for a lot of different advertisers. And think of who your ideal, if you have personas set up for your customers, think of who your ideal customer is probably following on Twitter. And you can target an ad to people who are following that person. And that's a great way to get started with zeroing in on specific profiles. Or specific people, really.
Cool. Next question, I think everyone's always concerned about upping their follower count and just getting more visibility. So Joe, what are some best practices for increasing follower count?
Of course, we have a followers campaign. But for whatever reason, that always seems very unsatisfying to people. They're like, how do I get more followers? We're like, oh, you can advertise to get more followers. They're like, no, but how do I get more followers? And so aside from the followers campaign, which we recommend people have an always on followers campaign, where it's just constantly in the background. So even if that's one of the ones that you're putting a lower amount of ad dollars behind, it's nice to create a healthy trickle of followers that are coming in, because as part of the way that Twitter works, I look at an account that I think is interesting and I see how many followers they have. And if they have a healthy following that is growing, even if those followers are coming in because the account is being promoted, it still means you have a healthy growth. And accounts that are already growing get more growth. Does that make sense? Of if I see people are following this account, I want to follow them. I will get notifications from people, my friends who start following other accounts. Additionally, you have to have a healthy presence to win those people over. If they follow you through your campaign and you're not tweeting, you don't have a profile that looks interesting with a timely pinned tweet, a good profile image, then they may unfollow, or they're not going to find you organically. So have a followers account always running in your background to keep that trickle going. And then when those people are coming to your profile, they will bring others with them as well. If your account is lively and you're tweeting and everything looks nice and your bio is something that immediately explains why I should be following you.
Cool. Next question we've got. How can I find tweets that my brand should engage with?
Hashtags are a really wonderful way to get started, but hashtags are not always used in a way. Not every conversation that your brand may want to jump in may have a hashtag that corresponds to it, of course. So I would say start with hashtags, make a list, find the obvious ones, circle up with your team and ask everyone what hashtags have they been seeing, which ones are they interacting with, and then create a list. And you can create a column on TweetDeck that follows all of those hashtags specifically. And that's a great thing to have up and just rolling by so you can see things you might want to jump into. And then I would say the other way is who you are following. Keep track. And you can also make lists in Twitter as well. I know for some people, they may be a little worried to follow certain accounts that they think are interesting because who you follow is public, but you can also make a list and not follow those people. So you can make a list of accounts that you think are really on topics in your industry, who are really quick to jump into things, and then have that up in TweetDeck as well and see their tweets going by. But if you are plugged into Twitter and you watch it enough, then you will start to see those topics come up on their own and very rapidly. I know with my team, we have a running DM where we'll just see a tweet that's interesting and we'll just DM it to each other and be like, oh, this is weird, or this is interesting, or this kind of, and sometimes you're not even aware why something caught your eye, but it's a really fun thing to be able to share together. So I would recommend setting up those 3 streams of some columns in TweetDeck that are following hashtags that are obvious for your industry, and then create a list, just crowdsource it with your team of accounts that are just super creative and super quick, and they seem like they're onto topics. And then, set up a DM group, share things that are interesting. And then, of course, with Twitter Moments and the lightning bolt, tab, we've made it easier to source some things that are trending. But I understand that some of the conversations of people on the call may be so niche they will never hit trendingness, but that's okay. Find ways to jump into them and then you make them trend.
Okay, I think we have time for maybe one more question. Joe, what do you think about any tips and tricks for a first-time social media coordinator?
Healthy work-life balance. Talk to your team about when you will be expected to be online and when you will not be expected to be online. I know one mistake I made when I was an early social media coordinator is I agreed to work 7 days a week indefinitely and to be online all the time, which is entirely unsustainable. So I'd say definitely figure out some on-off hours. I would say dig into analytics first when you have a new account so you can see who's already following, and then match that up with your ideals of what you would hope your following would be like and what you would expect. And then you can course correct over time and think, okay, we are a appliance company and we have no home improvement focused followers. That's a problem. So then what forums can we get in where there are a lot of people who are talking about home improvement, who are interested in it, and then go after those folks. So I'd say start with analytics to find out what your account is, get a healthy following on your personal account, and set up a private test account as well, where you can see how all of your tweets form out on mobile and test things before they go live. And then, of course, have a healthy work-life balance. Talk to your team so that they're not expecting you to be online every single moment. Even coming from Twitter, I know you got to unplug. You got to turn off those push notifications sometimes. And I know we have a lot more questions, which we're excited to answer. Thank you so much for all of them and all the energy and the excitement. And you can tweet your questions to @TwitterBusiness. We will be highlighting some of them and answering some of them as well. So we're, of course, excited to keep the conversation going indefinitely. And follow @TwitterBusiness. We'll be talking in depth about many of the topics covered today indefinitely. Those tips are not going to stop coming from us just because the webinar is over.
We'll also be sure to share out these slides with attendees as well.
Jen, thank you so much for your moderation and your time. This was really fun. I hope everyone got a lot out of it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Everyone.